This is Reality Dispatch, written by Jim Mins.
All black, Jay said. No color. The gun had put him in a trance, so much so that he didn't hear the question when the artist asked. The back and forth motion of the needle on skin was relaxing. It was not painful in the slightest. He respected the opinion of his artist, but he knew exactly what he was after and how it was to be presented on the lower half of his arm as it extended down to his fingers. It was tribal and it was pure, an ancient design based on the rock carvings in a hidden cave in the Appalachians. The blood that flowed in his veins had origins in the indigenous tribes that roamed the mountainous paths lining the center of continental America. Distant origins, but origins no less. He knew his mother would not be happy to see the lengths that his dedication had ascended to, but he was pressured to put ink on his skin thanks to the peer circle he had been inhabiting, and he wasn't prepared to sell his pigment to any old billboard. Not even some reds to highlight the speed of the Mustaño, asked the heavily tattooed artist. No, black only, Jay insisted. When it was complete, he stared at it in a fixated stance in front of the supplied mirrors. He was in awe. An emotion swelled in his throat that he suppressed. He hadn't accounted for the impact this confirmation of his lineage on his skin would generate. Thank you was all he could muster as he shook hands with the man who had permanently branded him. 11 years later, Jay was leaning over a client as she allowed him to dye her roots. He had become an expert in the attention to detail this task required. He had a calendar of bookings and relegated his services to a salon on the outskirts of Kentucky. He was beloved by the mostly female clientele. They had a trust in his abilities and a love for his patience, along with the sight of his firm pectorals as he leaned over their foreheads. It didn't go unnoticed. Despite his sexuality, he was someone often fantasized about. Jay knew of his reputation and allowed his objectification. He kept himself toned and in shape on purpose. If it brought bodies through the front door, who was he to deny his clients a taste of fantasy? No, I said lavender purple. This is more lilac, Martha, his regular on the 4th of each month, protested. Jay had been meticulous in his colorings and prided himself on his precision. He had given her this tone before and was unsure why she was suddenly upset. Martha, please. We've had this before. Lilac is what you always agree on, he said. No, I said lavender. I was very particular, she insisted. I came in and said, Jay, I want lavender tones throughout. Jay knew this conversation had not taken place and didn't wish to point out the obviousness of his confirmation practices. He insisted on writing color requests down for everyone, no matter who they were, whether they were a regular or walking into the salon for the first time. I'm sorry, Martha, he acquiesced. I can fix it for you, he said with his rehearsed handsome smile. I don't have time, she snapped. He suspected that she was beginning to lose it, at her age. The marbles were no longer firing on all cylinders, or however the expression went. He forgave her transgression. Next month is on the house. I'm terribly sorry, he said as she left in a huff. She's never acted like that before, Miguel said, attending to his own client. Never, Jay agreed, as he watched her storm off to her newly washed, freshly purchased Tesla, which sat charging in the adjacent parking lot. The ice booth was set up at the entrance to the shopping mall. It wasn't established to conduct audits for proof of citizenship. Instead, it was there as an intelligence tip-off office, a makeshift operation for the purpose of dobbing someone in. It's long and black all over, runs down his lower arm and over his fingers, Martha instructed the ICE agent, who stood thumbing through a glossary of documented tattoos for her to observe. What about this? He said, showing her an image of a black tribal insignia that swirled down the index finger and began up the forearm. Look, I don't know. Maybe, she said. They all look the same. I'm just saying, it's hideous. It's ugly, and you should do something about it. She reached into her purse, removed her floral-designed sunglasses, and pulled Jay's business card from a pocket inside. She handed it to the agent. Thank you for your cooperation, ma'am, the agent said. The tires screeched on the runway as the plane accelerated into takeoff. Jay was dressed in an orange jumpsuit acquired at his arrest, or abduction. He had not been processed at a police station, nor had he been able to plead his innocence in front of any judge in any courtroom. He had been asleep when the ICE agents burst down his apartment door, completely off its hinges. He had been sleeping in boxer shorts and was startled, then immediately removed from his bed. They had held him face down on the carpeted floor of his apartment and draped the jumpsuit over his legs and arms like a toddler being placed inside a one-piece pajama suit. They lifted him by the arms and escorted him downstairs to a waiting SUV with tinted windows and flashing red and blue lights on the roof. When he thought about it later, he wondered if there had been 11 or maybe 12 officers present for his home invasion. They drove him immediately to the airstrip, where he was then escorted up the tarmac stairs and directly onto a waiting 747 jet filled with individuals dressed just like him. Orange jumpsuits zipped to the neckline. They were all seated in passenger seats with their hands cuffed to the armrests on either side. The aisle passengers had their second wrists handcuffed to a bar underneath their seat. "Where are they taking us?" Jay asked the prisoner seated next to him, who didn't look up and didn't acknowledge the question. He simply stared ahead, into an unknown fate. The engine roared to life, and the plane ascended. "El Salvador," the passenger eventually said. "I heard El Salvador." Jay panicked. He hadn't been able to call his mother or his sister. He hadn't been able to call the salon to let them know he was unable to attend the morning clients. He thought of Darren, whom he had met a month earlier. They were supposed to have dinner the following night. The plane ascended further and further into the sky. Jay looked along the aisles to the hands, like his, cuffed to the armrests. All bore tattoos down to their fingertips. "Where in El Salvador?" Jay asked. The passenger next to him simply shrugged before returning his cold stare into the seat in front. "Aren't we meant to be processed? Read our rights?" Jay asked. He looked around. The plane was full of cold, dead stares that remained unbroken. No one wanted to engage in the injustice. No one wanted to acknowledge it. To do so would invite pain. No one wanted pain. No one wanted to invite the confirmation that they were staring down the barrel of an indefinite detention in a foreign country. No one wanted to hear the reality of their fate. No one but Jay, whose panicked cries grew louder and louder in the cabin as they competed with the noise of the engines, rising for the long-haul flight to the unknown.
For more stories of fact-based fiction, head to jimmins.substack.com.